I thought I knew my wife. Her beauty captivated everyone, but I never saw the betrayal coming. On our anniversary, I caught her with another man in a luxurious hotel. My world shattered as I watched them together, laughing and kissing. I confronted him, punched him, and called his wife. The pain of her deceit haunts me. I can't forget the look in her eyes, the lies she told, the life we built crumbling. This is the story of how my perfect life turned into a nightmare of betrayal and revenge. Tracy had a tough year. Everything was good until she hit 30, then life got hard. She longed for her time as a student. Grants Pass was dear to her, but she despised San Francisco. It seemed like a contradiction. Everyone loved San Francisco. Tracy, however, didn't hate the city itself, but rather the life she had to live there. When Travis McMahon passed away 5 years ago, Tracy was devastated. When she was 5 years old, she lost her mother to a serious illness. Later, when her father had a heart attack, she felt abandoned without her Uncle Tanner. Tracy was feeling very confused. Travis McMahon was a rich man. He made his money from the company he and Tanner established more than 30 years ago. It was a strange company without a clear purpose. Tanner and Travis began acquiring small businesses that offered unique services to customers. They had people in charge who ran the shops or let others run them. The shops they owned included places for fixing cars, fast food restaurants, shops for painting cars, and a few other different types of businesses. The brothers made lots of money each year because they were really smart. They earned hundreds of millions of dollars from this mix of things. After Travis passed away, Tanner had to take over everything. Tanner preferred working directly in the field over dealing with the business aspects. He hesitantly became the leader of the company, agreeing that Tracy would take over when she reached 30 years old. Then, Tanner would stop working. He was a tough person and won't be remembered fondly. Tracy was in her 4th year studying for a master's degree in fine arts at the University of Oregon. Until then, her main focus had been on painting and drawing. She always had new and imaginative ideas and enjoyed art. Even though she had a 26% share in the McMahon business, she only relied on the money earned from the $28 million fund her father had arranged for her. She found it easy to live on $12,000 every month. Like her father, who was careful with money, she saved more than half of her income each month. She didn't like the stress of managing a business, especially one she hadn't chosen. McMahon Enterprises had an office on the 10th floor of the Bank of America building. Tracy, as the CEO, oversaw a group of 8 men who helped with the paperwork that involved using computers. These 8 men were in charge of making most of the decisions for the company. Tracy seemed to just approve everything that was brought to her. Everything was going well until a few months ago. The board had 7 men and 1 woman. Andrea Stiles led the personnel team but showed more interest in Tracy than in the job itself. Tracy appreciated the attention but wished Andrea focused more on the tasks at hand. Todd Warner was younger than Tracy. He looked after the computer systems at the main company office and the other business sites. Tracy trusted Todd more than anyone else. Todd didn't like Tracy in a romantic way, which Tracy appreciated. The rest of the board members were elderly gentlemen who had been on the board for a long time. They were not happy that Tracy was the chairperson. All 6 of them believed they were more qualified for the seat than her. Darian Tremble spoke for them. Tracy was puzzled by Andrea's connection to the elderly group, the old codgers, realizing Todd was not part of their circle. Weekends were Tracy's much-needed escape from the craziness of life. While in Oregon, she enjoyed spending her free time doing challenging activities like mountain biking, rock climbing, and parkour. Tracy didn't have much time for herself. Sometimes she went on dates or had some secret flings, but nothing too serious. In San Francisco, she found it hard to exercise as much as she wanted. She found urban parkour to be tougher than what she was accustomed to in the suburbs. It was challenging, but helped her stay fit. 3 blocks away from the office was Tiny Morgan's Heritage Bike Shop. Tracy decided to pay it a visit one day when she was feeling very bored at work. The place was spacious, especially for downtown. The property was valuable. Many bikes were older models like Harleys and Indians. A Vincent Black Shadow bike was parked next to an Ariel Square 4 and a classic BMW. It felt a bit like a museum. Tracy had started riding on a Honda Rebel 250 years ago, which is why she was drawn to the few low-rider bikes displayed to the side of the shop. Most shoppers liked the larger machines, but Tracy preferred the 883 Sportster. A week later, a sleek black Harley was parked next to her. In 1987, in the basement of her condo, she rarely drove her Mazda car. Instead, she liked to use taxis or cable cars in the city. On weekends, she enjoyed riding her bike. Tracy decided to rent the condo near Japantown and 1 block away from the cable car. This way, she could enjoy sushi anytime and have a convenient commute to work. She loved doing parkour in Japantown because it was a great spot for it. Every day, she would wake up early, exercise, take a shower, and then head to work. While using the hairdryer in front of the mirror, she thought about trying a new hairstyle. Many people found long blonde hair attractive, but she didn't want to put in the effort to maintain it if she wasn't interested in dating anyone. So, she decided to get a short, boyish bob instead. She was very tall, with most of her height coming from her long legs. Biking and running kept her body slim with no extra fat. She preferred running in rural areas to work on her core. After her hair dried, she longed for Oregon. Time passed swiftly. It was effortless to achieve a natural appearance. Comfortable cotton sports underwear was always a good choice. She didn't have any fancy underwear like silk or lace in her drawer. After drinking some orange juice and eating half a honeydew melon, she left the apartment. Tracy didn't stop on the first floor, and instead went directly to the basement garage to see if her sporty car was still leaking oil before heading to work. Seeing that the oil was still dripping, Tracy knew she would have to take her car to the shop before the week was over. 5 minutes later, she walked towards the cable car on California Street. Once she got off the cable car, Todd Warner quickly took hold of her arm. "Come on, let's go this way. Hurry up, Miss McMahon, move quickly." It was clear that Todd was thinking about something important. She thought it would be a good idea to find out what was bothering him. Todd usually acted calm and serious. He usually didn't do this, so she knew it had to be important. The front of the Stardust coffee shop was crowded, but there was space in the back. The first customers were mostly buying coffee to take away. "Now that things have calmed down, can you explain what's happening, Todd?" "It's Trimble. He used some legal papers to kick you out as the board chairman. He and his friends gathered enough shares to have more votes than you, and now they control the company. Legal documents were created to say you are not capable. Servers are at all 4 doors and the parking garage entrance. You can't enter. There was a plumber at your house this morning, too. How did you not see him?" "I left through the parking garage behind the condo." "What happens when I receive the papers?" "It means that you have been formally informed. You will need to go to court, and it will take many years and a lot of money to reverse it. By the time you realize, it will be too late." "What is it too late for?" "They are getting ready to sell the company bit by bit. Some board members will take over parts of the company. I think Trimble will keep the transmission shops for himself. Do you know how much stock they have? I think I heard 31% mentioned a few times. It seems Todd is right. I don't have the skills to run the company. I thought I'd let them keep running things while I stayed as a leader. I never thought they would betray me. Perhaps you don't have enough experience to lead the company, but you were honest and fair. I can't say the same about them. What will happen if they don't give me the papers? You still have authority even when you're away. They can't remove you unless they give you notice. Do you think this will prevent them from splitting up the company?" "I'm not an expert in business law, but I believe it will. I need you to find a lawyer who can make legal documents to keep our company safe. Please do this quickly and share your phone number with me. I'll give you a call soon to let you know where to bring the papers for me to sign. Please hold off on making any big decisions until I'm back. Can we agree on that?" "Darn it, Tracy, I'm not a lawyer. I'll do my best." Todd never used her first name before, but she didn't mind this time. He handed her his business card with his cell phone number written on it. Tracy asked Todd if he had $300 in cash. Todd gave her the money and she thanked him with a quick kiss on the cheek. Todd went out the front door while Tracy headed out the back. The old bike store wasn't open yet, but Tracy remembered that Tiny lived there. After hearing a lot of banging, Tiny finally opened the door. He got a big cup of plain black coffee as a reward. Tiny wasn't into fancy frappuccinos. "Why are you here so late? I really need your help. You know I always help you out, right? I can't go back home right now. Can I borrow a fast motorbike, like a 1,200cc? And if you have them, I also need some boots and a leather outfit. Oh, look at that. A lovely woman who needs help. What's more attractive than that? Feel free to take anything you want from this shop. I'll work on getting a bike for you. Do you have a color in mind? Tony chuckled at the situation. He understood Tracy's position and wasn't concerned about getting his money back. It was advantageous to be in Tracy's good books. Tony was not foolish. Tracy did not respond to his joke about colors from afar. Tracy overheard a little shout. Having a goal could help with decision-making. Can you pass me one? Have you heard of Rough and Ready? I've been there before. Will that be useful now? Make sure to wear long underwear under your leather clothes and use warm gloves. Luckily, I think my bike has a half windshield that can provide some extra protection. But remember to wear those long johns, too. Given the situation, Tracy didn't worry about being modest. She quickly put on the warm long johns in the store. She chose some loose-fitting leathers for a long ride, different from her usual style. She prioritized comfort over style when picking out her boots and adding some warm wool socks. Meanwhile, Tony was pushing a red Sportster motorcycle with a partial windshield through the room. This is the best I can do for now. Your legs might feel a bit cold, but it will keep the top part warm. You might be more comfortable with one of the gold jackets over there. No, thank you. This will be okay. Can you help me choose a jacket and gloves? Why do I need this stuff? Your timing is bad. There will be a lot of snow in the Sierras today. By tonight, the fire will reach the foothills. You'll be safe until you pass Sacramento. After that, things might get uncertain. Grass Valley and Nevada City often get snowed in, and Rough and Ready is close by. Should we go somewhere else instead? Sorry, Tony, but that's where I have to go. How about borrowing my car or truck? It's not very exciting, is it? Tony gave simple directions to go to Auburn and then head north. The beginning of the trip was good. She took a break for lunch in Sacramento. By then, she felt like the long johns were too warm. Driving on the highway helped her feel a bit cooler, although she was still warm. She had her gloves and goggles in her pockets, but it seemed like she might not need them after all. Tom Henderson had just finished securing his ex-wife's piano to the trailer. He needed to sell it to make some extra cash. Not much was left to sell anymore. Come on, guys. We need to leave now to avoid the upcoming storm, two young boys said as they exited the house. The place was pretty, but the building was not great. You might say it was like a cabin in the mountains, but really it was more like a small cabin in the forest. One good thing was that they didn't owe any money on it. Bradley was 16 years old, while his brother Greg was 13. School got let out early at noon because a storm was on the way. The storm didn't look too serious yet, but you can never be sure with weather. Once we finish delivering this item, we can take a break and have dinner at the pit. The Jeep. Cherokee easily towed the trailer, but the piano on it made it unstable on the bumpy road. Tom drove cautiously until he reached the paved road. The drive from Nevada City to Roseville wasn't far, but he wanted to make sure the piano stayed safe. After selling it, Tom Henderson completed 3 new stories for his kids' book series, but he still needed pictures for them. His publisher wanted to wait for the illustrations before giving more money. Tom couldn't find any artists who would help without getting paid first, which he couldn't afford. Tom's wife used to create colorful drawings for the stories, but she suddenly left. Now, Tom is responsible for the family's earnings through his own creative work. Fortunately, he still had money coming in from his previous books. It had been 2 years since she had departed. Tom found a note on the dining table when he received divorce papers from Reno a few months later. The note said she found someone else, an airman from Beale Air Force Base near Marysville, and wouldn't return. She accompanied him when he was moved to a new location. The papers for their divorce confirmed that he was no longer her husband. Tom had his suspicions for about a year, but he had hoped his fears weren't true. He couldn't understand why it happened, making it hard to tell the boys. Men are often the last to hear about things. The $600 from selling the piano will cover food for a month and pay all the overdue utility bills. Other things will have to be put on hold for now. Tom was happy when the upright was set up in its new spot. He was grateful for the boys' help in getting it done. Large, damp snowflakes fell as they drove back to Auburn. He felt relieved to leave the highway as the trailer would shake a lot when driving fast. but maybe it would have been wiser to keep going until they reached home. He had told the boys they would have dinner at the pit. It was a treat because the steaks were expensive. Bradley and Greg liked grilling their own steaks on the fire. Tom believed that spending a little more money on the meat was a good idea once it was cooked just right. The group of friends enjoyed their meal in front of the window. They saw the snow fall harder and the wind blow stronger. Greg noticed a motorcycle emerge from the snow and stop by the building. The bike and the rider were completely covered in icy white snow at the front. In 2 minutes, they saw Tracy's shoulder-length blonde hair fall as she took off her helmet. Standing at the doorway, she dripped snow on the brick floor. The hostess gave her a towel. Bradley and Greg thought it was really neat. Tom noticed a pretty girl who wanted some coffee. Soon after, she got her coffee and a hamburger, too. Even though she tried to clean herself up, she was still wet on the ground. Her cheeks were really red, even with her helmet on. "What's the matter, Bradley?" She smiled at me, but Greg didn't believe his brother. Bradley looked uncomfortable when asked if he was looking at her. "It's difficult to not look at her. She's really attractive. But you should try to keep your eyes to yourself. It's impolite." Tom knew exactly what his oldest son found appealing. He managed to look at her a few times while eating his steak. She was really attractive, just like Bradley had mentioned, the type of girl that boys think about before going to bed. The middle-aged man knew he could never be friends with the girl. Maybe it was because of her leather jacket. The snow was getting heavier. Tom and the boys will need to drive the final 20 miles to reach home. The four-wheel drive car will make it easier, but the road will still be bumpy. Everyone agreed to have dessert, but they got interrupted before they could finish. "Excuse me?" The waitress informed them that the trailer outside belonged to them. The tall blonde in leather stood by the table without being noticed. Tom felt a bit nervous, but managed to say, "Yes, I need your help. I need to find a motel to stay overnight, but my bike is not working anymore. I see your trailer is empty, so I was wondering if you could help me by giving me a ride to the closest motel. The motorcycle isn't mine, and I don't want to leave it here. We're going to Grass Valley, where there are 2 motels. I think we can give you a ride. No problem. I would be thankful for that. Oh, and I already paid for your drinks." What if I had said no? But that never happened. The guys were all smiling happily. "We can help you carry your stuff." Bradley received the keys from his crush and instructed the guys to secure it properly to the front rail with bungee cords and tie-downs. Tom was confident they understood without needing any additional direction. They had lifted their dirt bikes in and out of their truck many times in the past year. The Harley was noticeably heavier than the others. She took a seat at the table opposite Tom. "Hi, I'm Tracy. I think I chose a bad time to visit my uncle." She reached out her hand, which was not something women usually did. Tom pondered for a moment. Tom is the bigger brother and Bradley is his friend. Greg is the younger boy. Sorry for Bradley staring at you before. It's fine. I noticed you were looking too. You looked really nice. Everything was snow-covered and icy. I didn't mean to make you feel uneasy. Actually, it was helpful. Your discomfort gave me an opportunity to ask for your assistance. I can be sneaky sometimes." Tom couldn't resist smiling at the confidence of his dinner party guests. The server brought 2 coffees while they quietly watched the 2 boys put the motorcycle on the trailer, as if it was something they had done many times. The trailer was made for carrying dirt bikes and ATVs, so securing the small Harley was easy. 10 minutes later, the 2 boys came back and Bradley gave the keys back to Tracy. He looked pleased with himself, and the woman in trouble saw, "Sure, Bradley, start the Jeep so we can leave soon." When Tom and Tracy reached the car, Greg had already cleared the snow from the windows. The inside was beginning to feel cozy. Tracy quickly looked over the bike tie-downs before sitting in the front seat. She kept her helmet in her lap, along with her goggles and gloves. The roads around here are usually clear, so there aren't any snowplows on hand. By tomorrow at noon, most of it would disappear, except for a few spots in the shadowy parts. Tom drove slowly and tried not to brake too much. Just as he had predicted, both motels were full. Tom stopped his car on the side of the road. The snow was falling, but not as fast as before, and the flakes were bigger. "Where were you headed?" "I have an uncle who lives in a place called Rough and Ready. I don't know exactly where it is, and I'm not even sure if he still lives there. I don't have his phone number either. I thought someone could help me find him. Rough and Ready is 4 miles west, and our place is 4 miles east in Nevada City." Given the situation, I believe it would be best for you to come to our home. We have enough space for you, and you are more than welcome to stay with us. Either tomorrow or the day after, we can assist you in locating your uncle. Are you sure? I don't want to bother. Will your wife be okay with it? Don't have a wife to consider. We might have clean clothes for you to wear. Tom noticed his sons were smiling. Then he realized he was too. His guests saw it as well. 10 minutes later, Tracy watched her host prepare coffee in his simple cabin. It wasn't fancy, but it felt warm and inviting. She tried to tidy herself up without spilling too much on the big knitted rock. Her socks were wet, so she took them off and placed them on the boots near the door. Tom had reignited the hot coals in the fireplace, and small flames were starting to appear. She stepped nearer, waiting for the heat to arrive soon. The silence between them was beginning to stand out. When the door suddenly opened, your bike was in the shed. Bradley looked proud of his actions, as if he had more to say but couldn't find the words. Tracy found it funny how he looked uncomfortable. The boys took off their jackets and put their boots by the door. I started warming up milk for hot chocolate. Can you find some dry clothes for our visitor in the green trunk in the attic? Maybe some sweatpants or similar. Tom finally spoke when they got inside the cabin. He asked to look for slippers or cozy socks. The boys quickly ran to the storage area near the main bedroom without delay. One asked, "Shall we start with coffee or a shower?" They both agreed on a shower without a second thought. "I'll like the coffee more once I warm up." The water was warm, and Tracy liked it longer than usual. The end of her trip was tough, and she was beginning to feel it. The hot water from the shower felt nice. When she got out, she saw that her clothes were missing. Instead, she found a pair of green sweatpants and some cozy socks waiting for her. There was a big towel on the counter with a simple hairdryer on it. She felt guilty for taking so long in the bathroom, but her hair was taking a long time to dry. She was happy for the care and relieved they did not include any secondhand underwear. The sweatpants were a bit short, but they worked well. Bradley and Greg wanted Tracy to sit with them on the couch. Tom quickly handed her a mug of coffee. "Your clothes are being washed. It will be dry and ready to wear in an hour. I'm sorry I took them out of the bathroom when you were in there. It seemed like the best idea at the time. I didn't know where to put the leather items, so I left them hanging on chairs for a couple of hours." Tracy was overwhelmed by Bradley and Greg's questions. They wanted to know where she was from, where she was headed, if she was married, how long she'd be staying, her age, and why she wasn't married. It felt like it lasted a long time, but Tracy enjoyed it. It was similar to playing 20 questions, and Tracy got to ask some questions, too. Most of the questions were for the boys, but a few were meant to help her understand her host better. She made sure not to inquire about the boy's mother. Tom watched the game but didn't join in. "That's enough questions, guys," he said. "It's time for bed. Let the lady rest." They didn't want to go, but eventually began to exit. "Just one more thing. How do you want your eggs cooked?" Bradley was smiling. "I usually eat fruit in the morning, but if eggs are all that's available, scrambled is good with me." When the guys left, the room felt more relaxed. Tom grabbed Tracy's empty cup. "This is the last. Should I brew some more?" "No need for me," Tracy replied. "I had a lot, and to be honest, I feel ready for bed too." Tom finished folding the clean clothes from the dryer and put them next to her on the couch. He reassured her that they could pick out more clothes in the morning. "My wife used to own these clothes. They might fit you if you don't mind wearing them." Judging by the sweatpants, she was probably on the shorter side. Tom smiled and led Tracy down a short hallway to the main bedroom. "I'll sleep on the sofa," he said. Tracy didn't feel like arguing with him. She knew he needed the bed after the long ride. She smiled, said goodnight, and closed the door. Waking up in a new house felt strange to Tracy. She felt the cold as she left the bed. An old smell hung in the air from a fire that went out during the night. The comforting scent of coffee soon took over, replacing the stale odors. When she walked into the living room, the first thing she saw was a fresh fire blazing on the old coals in the fireplace. Next, I saw 3 men sitting at the wooden kitchen table. They were smiling. She was a little embarrassed by all the attention, but also felt pleased. Tom handed her a mug of coffee while Bradley placed half a cantaloupe in front of the seat that seemed to be for her. "Good morning," they all said together. Tracy smiled and nodded at the others. This melon is delicious. I didn't think it would be this good. Bradley woke up early and headed to the market. He bought what he needed and grabbed a honeydew as well, just in case. Tom seemed a bit changed when he saw him that morning. The slight beard was gone and the plaid shirt appeared new, maybe just ironed. I didn't expect the shops to be open so soon. Bradley proudly joined the talk and mentioned that he went to the back with a milk delivery guy. He then asked Mr. Springer to give him the melons. I told him it was a special day and he was very smart about it. I cleaned his Harley carefully, making sure to remove any dirt in the wheels and blowing everything clean with an air gun. It's all set to use when you want it. Greg looked pleased to be able to help out. Tracy had just begun her breakfast when she heard the school bus honk its horn. They both took a backpack and walked out the door. Bradley looked back and asked, "You'll be here when we come back, right?" She smiled and nodded yes. Once the boys went away, Tracy and Tom sat quietly. Tom was eating an English muffin with honey, while Tracy smiled to herself, finding it funny how Tom was a bit uneasy. She didn't want to seem pushy, but she needed to ask if he had clothing that fit better. "Do you have clothes that might fit me better? I don't want to wear that leather again." "That's okay. You can wear something that was my wife's instead. Some of it might fit, but she was a lot shorter than you." I cleaned it before storing it. Off the master bedroom, there was a storage room in the attic. It didn't have heat, but it was dry. Tom pointed out 2 big steamer trunks to her, and then left her to go through them by herself. 20 minutes passed, and Tracy had gathered a bunch of different things that made her feel at ease. Tom looked happy that she had managed to find something, anything really. Now, all she needed were some comfortable shoes that fit properly. The snow was beginning to melt. In just a few hours, only some small patches would remain in shaded spots. "Tracy, I'm not sure about your last name, and I don't feel like I know you enough to use your first name. What should I call you?" "Tracy is good with me, and my last name is McMahon." "All right then, Tracy. I'm Tom. Thank you and the guys for helping out, but it's time for me to go. I'll return these clothes to you soon. I need to find a place to sleep now. We can drive to the city in the Jeep and check out what's there, maybe buy some shoes, too." Tom wasn't keen on her going. Tracy was dressed. That's all there was to it. Despite her appearance resembling that of a bag lady, Tom found her quite attractive. He felt that cute was not the best word to describe her, but it was the word he wished to use. If he found Tracy attractive, he felt too nervous to approach her. He thought she should just be pretty for now. The sun was shining, and the sky was clear as they walked to the car, a stark difference from the day before. Tracy's bell-bottom jeans were a bit short, but the waist was loose, so it balanced out. Her sweater covered her stomach. She didn't have any issues with her body, but she preferred to cover it up. She was excited to buy new boots to replace her old ones. The town is just a quick drive away. "Are you sure you don't want to stay with us instead? The boys and I would really enjoy having you with us." Tracy had to admit that she liked being with the Henderson family, but staying longer could lead to some tricky situations. She smiled when Tom offered something, but she was unsure if she should say no. She needed to figure out if she truly wanted to decline his offer. "I have a proposition for you. If I can't find my uncle or if he's busy, I'll stay with you all for a bit longer." We waited quietly for a few minutes. "I might take some time to grab a few things." "Can you go for a drive around the area and ask if anyone has seen Tanner? Can you give me Tanner McMahon's address or phone number?" "All I know is his name, Tanner McMahon, and that he lives around Rough and Ready area. Hey, Tom, can you take me there?" The building looked old, but the sign outside was fresh. Sierra Outfitters was exactly what Tracy wanted. Tracy double-checked, asking, "Are you sure? The boys and I went to that store right when it opened. They have really nice things, but they cost a lot. A man from San Francisco started running the place around 6 months ago." She hopped out of the Jeep as Tom waved and shouted that he would return in an hour. She was headed to a store that had a mix of Cabela's and Land's End, which was just perfect. Tracy felt like she belonged there right away. The options were limited, but just right for her. A man greeted her with a friendly, "Good morning. How can I assist you?" Tracy was sure he was a native of San Francisco. She wasn't one to judge others based on stereotypes, so it was a nice and unexpected change to see. She wouldn't have to deal with an annoying onlooker. "I need a cart," she said. "Hello, I'm Lance, and I'll be your cart today." He smiled and reached out his arms, but not cleverly. She had a liking for Lance, yet doubted that was his actual name. Who would call their child Lance? Let's begin. I need some specialized shoes first. I have some nice options for you to choose from on the side. I'm confident we can find something you like. And with that, our fun shopping trip started. After 2 hours, Tracy had gathered many things she liked. She found clothes she liked and some other items too. At that moment, she convinced Lance to confess that his actual name was Bryant. He relocated from the city due to his mother having a stroke. Brian's partner was a nurse who helped take care of her while Brian managed the store. He missed his old way of life but was happy to be back home. The bill was more than $4,000. Quality items are expensive. Tracy was about to use her American Express card when she suddenly felt scared. She worried that if someone was trying to find her, they could trace her card transactions. She stopped briefly before giving the card. "Miss McMahon, is something wrong? You recognize me, don't you? Why didn't you mention it earlier? I didn't feel it was needed or right. If something is not right, I'm here to help." Tracy thanked the offer of help, but she wasn't sure exactly what kind of help she required. She saw Tom park the Jeep and felt pressured to find a solution. Before she could respond, Brian reassured her that payment was not needed at that moment. "You can take them and pay me later when it's easy for you. Are you ready, Miss McMahon? I trust you to take good care of the items. Are you finished?" Tom wasn't being rude or clever. He jokingly asked about the pile of packages. Brian and Tom exchanged nods without speaking. "Can you bring these to the car while I pay?" "Sure thing." Tom picked up a bunch, but he realized he would need to make a few trips. After he walked away, Tracy wrote a number on a paper for Brian. She told him to call someone in San Francisco and ask them to bring $10,000 in cash quickly. "I'll grab it from the store. Don't say my name. No need for that. Keep quiet about seeing me, okay?" Brian grinned, finding the whole thing interesting. Brian felt honored that Tracy chose him for the job. As she grabbed some packages, he gave her his card. "I don't want to intrude, but if you want to go undercover, maybe consider changing your hairstyle and hair color." The card was from a nearby beauty salon. They promised to keep things private. Tracy nodded in gratitude as she and Tom left with the final bags. "I'm sorry," Tom said. "I may have gone a bit overboard. Your wife's clothes were good, but these will suit you better and be more comfortable. I would be upset if my clothes made you think of her." Tom discovered where Tanner McMahon lived while on a week-long fishing trip for brook trout in Mount Shasta. Tanner adored the mountains and enjoyed the challenge of catching brookies. Tom heard about this from the housekeeper but wasn't sure if she was telling him the truth. After eating some burgers, they drove to a place called Rough and ready for Tracy to check out in person. Tom parked the car on a quiet part of the road. Up ahead, about 100 yards away, sat a big stone lodge on top of a hill. The house was somewhat concealed by a group of tall pine trees. The path up the hill was covered in gravel and surrounded by vegetation. The house was not unwelcoming, but it also didn't seem very inviting. As they got closer to the house, it appeared to get bigger. It was certainly larger than what one old man would typically need. Tracy smiled as she looked around the lovely house, which felt different from what she knew about Uncle Tanner. As they walked towards the front porch, a lady who looked middle-aged opened the door. She wore jeans and a flannel shirt, a contrast with her gray hair and large body. "Oh, look, it's Tracy McMahon. Tanner will be happy when he sees you." Tracy was puzzled about the woman's identity as they were taken to the main room. "My friend mentioned that Tanner was not present. Do you know when he'll return? Please take a seat. Can I get you a drink?" The furniture in the room was made of pine logs and had cushions in various colors. The walls were decorated with Indian blankets, making the room resemble a scene from an old Western movie. It was clear that Tanner had a particular style. Tracy and Tom politely declined the offer for a drink by shaking their heads. "I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Sarah Weiser. Some might call me Tanner's partner. Partner for life, that is." Sarah chuckled and seemed a bit shy when Tracy asked about her uncle. Sarah admitted that it was a complicated story. "I help with cooking, cleaning, laundry, and keep company in return for a place to stay." Tracy understood the situation and found it funny. She was pleased for Tanner and seemed like she should also be happy for his new friend. "He shows off many pictures of you and talks about you often." Tracy felt a bit embarrassed by the remark, especially since she said it in front of Tom Tanner. He went trout fishing 4 days ago. He will be back soon. He is in Shasta, or maybe Paxton near Mount Everest. Shasta is missing because no one knows where Paxton went. Sorry about that. Sarah winked at Tom and Tracy saw him blush a bit. I think he doesn't bring a cell phone with him. You are familiar with your uncle. Please leave me a phone number and I will ask him to call you when he returns. Are you staying nearby? Tracy wrote her cell phone number on a piece of paper. Sarah suggested giving Tom her house phone number. Tracy then looked at Sarah and sheepishly admitted that she would be staying with Mr. Smith. Henderson will be with me for the next few days. He has a little house in Nevada City, so I'll be nearby. Right on time, they all got up to go. I hope you and Mr. Henderson can come visit me there. Henderson, that you are smiling about? She asked with a curious grin. Tom chuckled. I just remembered a silly joke I heard earlier, he replied. Tracy laughed. Well, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with us, she insisted. So Tom recounted the joke, and soon all three of them were laughing as they made their way back to the Jeep. Tracy couldn't help but feel grateful for moments like these, simple and full of joy. Tom, I wanted to talk to you about something. Remember when you hinted that we were like a couple? I found it sweet. Even though he was correct, she didn't know how to respond. Oh, and I'm happy you chose to stick around. They were almost home in Grass Valley when Tracy took out the card Brian gave her. Can you stop at the Triple Cut? I believe it's close by. I left my clothes there. I know the location. How much time will you need? Maybe 2 hours. Can I give you a call? Bradley will be back from school by then. I'll ask him to come get you. He will enjoy doing that. Bradley and Greg were waiting by the Triple Cut when Tracy exited. They didn't recognize her at first. It wasn't the new clothes, but her short, red-tinted haircut. She hopped in the front seat and buckled up. What do you think of my new style? Greg was silent, and Bradley seemed speechless before. You look pretty good. Do you think you look more like a mom now? Greg chimed in, saying he thinks you look like a sexy mom. That wasn't my intention, but thanks anyway. The roads were clear and dry when we went back to the Hendersons' place. However, the ground was still wet and slippery, so we decided to postpone our parkour workout for a few days. Tracy wasn't used to being around children and didn't know how to talk to them. She was usually good in social settings, but she felt unsure in this new situation. Tom Henderson was splitting wood next to the cabin when they returned. There were piles of cut logs next to him. On the other side, there were neat stacks of wood that had been split. The three of them then walked onto the porch. Bradley could see Tracy was curious. She had been like that ever since their mom left. What do you mean? Tracy asked eagerly, wanting to find out about Tom's wife. Greg, who has OCD, joined in the conversation when he walked into the cabin where Tracy and Bradley were sitting on the porch steps. Greg and I used to divide the firewood and pile it up. One day when Mom was away, Dad said he would do the job himself from then on. He just asked us to keep the fireplace stocked with dry wood. Sometimes he stays outside until it's dark, cutting wood. He doesn't even come inside for dinner. At the beginning, he had painful blisters on his hands, but now his hands are tough and rough. He never gets exhausted. He has collected a lot of wood. There is even more wood behind the cabin, about 10 times as much. We already have enough split wood for 5 years, but he continues to bring more. Sometimes it's tough to pay the bills, yet he keeps ordering more log deliveries. Tom was very angry. He thought that maybe the broken wood was like how he felt towards his wife. Tom spotted Bradley and Tracy on the porch. He was in a groove and didn't want to stop, but he thought maybe it was best to keep his interest a secret. He hoped he hadn't waited too long. Your new hair looks nice, he said. She felt happy because he seemed genuine when he spoke. It wasn't exactly what she wanted, but she was thankful. Let's make the chili now. Bradley wanted to give Tracy and his dad some privacy. He often cooks for them. The food isn't great, but it's enough to fill them up. I've only been here for a day, and 2 people have already noticed me, so I decided to change how I look a little. I'm not trying to be meddlesome, but why did you feel the need to do that? Tracy decided to confide in her host about her current issue. She explained that some not-so-nice people were attempting to take control of her father's company. They needed to give me some important documents. I came here with 2 goals, to avoid getting the papers and to ask for my Uncle Tanner's assistance. He co-founded the company with my father long ago. I'm kind of hiding here. It sounds interesting. Having some excitement must be good, Tom. Yeah, you stink. I think you should shower before dinner. He chuckled at her boldness. You're right. I promise to smell fresh like an Irish leprechaun by dinner time, Tom said as he headed to the shower. Tracy took off all the tags and labels from her new clothes. There was a whole dresser full of clothes for her, more than she needed. On the dresser were new brushes for her teeth and hair. She felt happy to see them. The best part of the night was when Greg said, You mentioned yesterday that you were a little lost. I can't find the word trace in the dictionary. Do you know what it means? It's French. Do you have a computer? Tracy asked Tom to search for something on the computer and then report back. The two friends were suddenly left by themselves. The boys quickly hurried to the computer, feeling challenged by Tracy's request. Greg didn't describe me that way before. Should I feel ashamed by what my son said? No, I shouldn't. He said I looked like a stylish mom after I left the hair salon. I'm sorry to say, but you're too young to be a mother, Kitty. That's what you need to apologize for. I can only give you the truth, and that's the best I can do. Tom poured coffee and saw Tracy smiling. He asked, Can you tell me about your wife? Tom remained silent. It was clear from his face and how he was acting that he didn't want to talk about that. I apologize for bringing up something sensitive. I won't mention it again. The silence felt uncomfortable. It's hard for me to talk about because the person left 2 years ago without giving a reason. I had a feeling something was going on, but I wasn't sure. She went away with a sergeant from Beale Air Force Base close to Marysville. I'm not sure how they got to know each other. 6 months later, I received a letter saying she had divorced me in Nevada. I was surprised because I didn't see it coming, but I'm glad she didn't ask for anything in the end. I didn't get a chance to stop it or argue against it. It hurt me in 3 ways. She left her kids, embarrassed me, and took some of our money. I write children's books for a living and used to draw pictures for the stories. Now, I let out my anger and frustration by chopping wood in the backyard every day. Have you seen or heard from her recently? She sends birthday cards to the boys with $10 inside. I don't know where she is now. Do you think she will return? Oh no, I hope not, Tom said quietly to himself as he began clearing the coffee cups. Just then, the boys came back. Can you teach us? Show us how to get things? They asked eagerly. Greg was very excited, even more than Bradley. Tracy noticed how enthusiastic they both were. As Bradley showed a printed sheet of paper with some movements listed, Tracy stood up from the couch. She said, I need to talk to Tom and the boys for a bit. Can you make us some more coffee? Tom responded to her request with a smile. Making her happy was his top priority. Tracy sat on a bunk bed facing potential students. Tonight, I want both of you to practice the new dances. Tomorrow after school, head to Sierra Outfitters and find Brian. Request a pair of shoes and gloves for each of you. Ask him to charge it to me. And please, keep this a secret from your dad. Once you have the necessary tools, we can begin. Her directions were followed by a serious quietness. She looked at them with a confused expression and said, Sorry, we can't do anything unless we tell our dad first. We want the shoes and gloves, but we can't be sneaky about it. It's important because trust is what's holding the family together ever since their mom left. Without trust, a family cannot thrive. I didn't mean to deceive you. I was worried that he wouldn't like me getting that for you. I didn't want to seem like I was giving charity. We will help him if he agrees. Tracy felt embarrassed until a voice from the doorway said, It's okay, guys. I believe it would be good for Miss McMahon to provide you with some tools. I also anticipate that she will remain until you both understand how to do all the French activities. Tracy was surprised by how well Tom handled a tricky situation, making it into a good outcome. She realized he wanted her around, and she didn't mind at all. Tracy felt good in that place. She liked being with Tom. The boys gave each other a high five when Tracy left the room, feeling happy. Tracy thought it was a bit embarrassing. I'm sorry for secretly persuading your sons to do something without telling you. I promise not to do it again. But remember, a little secret can sometimes be exciting. Sadly, this didn't go as planned. Are you upset with me? Not at all. I appreciate your interest in playing along. It meant a lot to them. We are starting to feel a bit down lately. How can I bring some joy to your day? Tom gave her a hot cup of coffee. Let me keep making coffee for you, and I'll figure out a way to repay you for the shoes and gloves. Tom and Tracy both put their feet on the coffee table together and laughed. After a few quiet minutes, Tom broke the silence by asking if she wanted to watch a movie. They both ended up falling asleep on the couch before it finished. It had been a tiring day. Tracy woke up to the sound of the two boys laughing in the kitchen. She found herself sitting next to Tom on the couch, both of them smiling shyly. She stood up and walked to the bathroom. She saw the happiness in the kitchen as she walked out, and it made her smile too. When she came back, Tom was assisting the boys with a mischievous look on his face. He smiled at her when she took her seat but didn't speak. Soon after, the school bus horn sounded, signaling the start of another hectic day in the foothills. Tracy realized that she and Tom worked well together in the house. They smoothly finished their morning routines and chores without any problems. They worked well together, as if they had lots of experience. Surprisingly, it was only their second day. The new clothes made a big difference and were greatly appreciated. She stored her leathers and boots safely for future use. Tom looked a bit sad when Tracy went out for a run. He watched her go down the road looking like he was afraid she wouldn't return. Tracy looked back and smiled before continuing on her run. She will return, and he will be happy once more. She veered off into the woods after walking for a short distance. She found the rocks she needed, but the ground was still soggy from the melting snow. She would have to wait another day or two before taking the boys out. She could look for good places for their training and also have a workout there. The rocks were not wet, so she found some good spots to practice different types of jumps. In 20 minutes, she got ready to head back to the house without going back on the road. As she made her way back, she noticed a nice spot to exercise and started thinking about who owned it. Tom was chopping wood when he saw her emerge from the woods behind the property. The land was too rugged to construct anything on, but that wasn't her goal. Tracy started walking when she reached the open space. She was surprised by the muscles in his arms when she saw him without his shirt on. She thought about how his regular exercise may have made his heart, lungs, and muscles stronger. "I wanted to go downtown for lunch, Mr. Henderson, but it seems like we both need showers first. I can't tell who is sweating more, me or Tom." Tom put down the axe and sat on his chopping stump. "We could save time by showering together." It was the first time he hinted at something. Tracy wanted him to relax a bit, so she wasn't upset. "If we did that, I worry we wouldn't make it to town." Moving towards the house, she turned back with a small smile. "Thank you for the offer," she said. Tracy had just finished her shower when she heard the phone ring. Shortly after, Tom tapped gently on the door. "Tracy, Sarah Weiser is on the phone. Do you want to answer now or call her back?" She didn't reply, just opened the door in a towel. Her host struggled to hide his embarrassed smile. She was having fun teasing him, but she realized it was turning into something more. "Hey, Sarah, any good news?" he asked. "Your uncle is coming home soon. He hoped you and your male friend could join for lunch between 12 and 1. My friend and I will come if he gets ready quickly after showering." Tracy heard Sarah giggle softly on the phone. "We'll be there soon," she said before ending the call. She turned to Tom with a smile. "Go quick and shower. We're going out for lunch." The lunch was nice. Tanner took care of Tom, and Sarah was a great host. Tom and Tanner talked about random things, while Sarah and Tracy cleaned up the table together. Sarah showed Tom around the McMahon property for an hour, while Tanner and Tracy stayed inside the den. It was a big area, even crossing the street. Sarah was enjoyable to chat with, and Tanner and his niece got to work. Tom actually felt relieved that he wasn't involved in whatever brought Tracy to his door. He didn't feel excluded at all. Tracy and Tanner left their host's house and headed home after having lunch. Tracy looked happy, so I guess things went well with her uncle. "I believe things will get better. My dad was better at business than my uncle. Tanner is a bit tougher, but he can fix this situation. I really didn't understand what you said. Thank you for being patient. You've been very understanding. I'll make sure to thank you for being so kind. I always hoped to be rewarded." Tracy was happy with how things were going with Tom. It wasn't what she expected, but it was turning out to be enjoyable. She wasn't in a hurry to return to San Francisco. "Tom, can we swing by Sierra Outfitters and then the grocery store on our way back home? I told the kids we'd have spaghetti for dinner." Brian happily greeted Tracy as she walked into the store. He swiftly grabbed a yellow envelope from below the counter and passed it to her. Tracy's friend didn't stay for very long. I wanted him to stay for dinner, but he said he had to go back to the city. He was worried he might have been followed. Oh, did he leave quickly to avoid being followed? I believe so. He mentioned driving around to throw off anyone following him, but it might not have worked in time. Tracy gave Brian the money she owed him, along with an extra $1,000 for the boys' expenses. She thanked him for his kindness and said that the boys would be coming over later in the day. He was pleased with the extra customers and the money they brought in. She quickly began making gravy for dinner, which only took her 10 minutes. Tom was grateful. "As the sauce cooks, why don't you tell me about your job or what you used to do for work?" She could tell Tom was hesitant as he demonstrated how he worked on his stories at the table his wife used for her drawings. The pictures in the book were simple pen and ink drawings with soft watercolor touches. They perfectly matched the stories Tom wrote. Tracy was thinking about how she could make something similar to what she saw, but with her own touch to it. As she kept looking at the pictures, she got more and more curious. She had everything she needed, and if something wasn't there, she believed she could find it nearby. Her main challenge was figuring out how to suggest it to Tom without upsetting him. Would he accept her help, or would he be upset by her suggestion? Tom observed Tracy examining the drawings he had completed. She studied the illustrations closely, showing that she knew a lot about art techniques. He started to feel excited about her interest. "You know a bit about art, right?" It was an opportunity. How fortunate could a girl be? A little bit. She wasn't sure if she should say more. "All the information you need is here. If you want to have some fun, I can go do something else for a bit. I need to chop some wood. Maybe I'll read a book before I start." She planned to relax on the porch with a book, but chose to remain indoors. Tom's constant chopping wood was bothersome. She needed to find a way to help him stop using it without taking direct action. This topic wasn't up for debate. Talking to him logically wouldn't make him change his mind. After half an hour, she returned to the workroom. For 2 hours, she ignored the sound of the axe chopping wood and focused on learning how to make good drawings. If she wanted to start making illustrations for his books, she would have to find a way to make the noise from chopping wood to stop. Tracy hoped that Tom and his publisher would like her work. She stirred the source every half hour. Adding a bit of red wine made it taste better. The boys rushed into the room together. They had gotten new shoes at the store, put them on, and ran home excitedly. Tomorrow, she planned to teach them how to use their new shoes to the fullest. She turned on the water for the pasta and went outside on the porch. "You should take another shower if you want to try my amazing spaghetti," she teased. After speaking, she noticed she sounded like a married woman. This was a new feeling for her, and she thought she might like it. Tom smiled as he grabbed his shirt and headed back to the house. He thought to himself that he could really get used to this. The house was peaceful after the kids went to sleep that night. Tom had brought out a cold bottle of Lambrusco, which they slowly enjoyed together. Sitting by the fire, Tracy was the one to break the silence and start the conversation. "Tom, can you tell me why you always feel the need to chop wood? It seems like a big deal to you. I want to understand, but I'm not sure if we can get help from a professional. Honestly, I don't think I need it. The boys like to poke fun at me for it, but I believe I can quit whenever I choose. I feel angry about what happened to the boys inside me. It's all I think about when I swing the axe. I don't want revenge, but I believe some closure would be helpful. Can I help in any way?" Tom smiled at her. "You're already helping. Yesterday, I found myself thinking about you more than I thought about Anne. Is that a good thing? I'm uncertain. I often found myself imagining us showering together. It seems like I could be trading anger for sexual desire." Tracy laughed so much she had to put her wine glass down. "Oh, I get it. You're trying to blame everything on me now. That's not right. If I drink more wine, I'll have to go outside and split logs. I understand now, no need to worry." She took his glass, placed it on the table, and headed towards the bedroom. "I had wanted to do this when the boys were out, but now that you kept pestering me, we have no choice but to do it now." A lock was on the bedroom door, yet the cabin remained small for the following hour. Tracy wanted to help Tom release his built-up tension, along with her own. They both enjoyed the thrill of trying to have sex quietly. At times, their emotions became strong, so they used soft pillows to muffle the noise. They ended up falling asleep together. On Saturday morning, Tom and Tracy woke up to the scent of coffee and bacon. They soon realized that the boys were now aware of their secret relationship. After quickly getting themselves ready, they stepped outside to meet their friends, who welcomed them with big smiles and fresh orange juice. Tracy decided to have bacon and eggs for breakfast instead of melon today. The meal was quieter than usual. The adults felt a bit awkward, but the boys didn't seem to mind. Greg spoke up, asking when they could leave. "We are all set with everything planned out. We know the steps by heart. When can you be ready?" Tom and Tracy both felt a bit calmer. The boys were more excited about their parkour plans for the day than what Tracy and their father did the night before. 10 minutes passed, and Tom watched as his sons and their new guest jogged down the road, eventually fading out of sight around the corner. It felt like they were giving their approval without meaning to. He couldn't choose between taking a shower or splitting wood. The 1-mile run helped him stretch and feel better. Without saying anything, Tracy quickly turned right and began climbing up the rocky hill. Bradley and Greg were amazed as they saw her jump from one rock to another, moving gracefully like a gazelle. She used her hands and feet to move across obstacles, similar to actors in a budget martial arts film. They knew all the steps and had seen all the videos, but seeing it in real life was still captivating. "Are you both going to stay there all day? Come on, get moving now." Tracy smiled as she watched her students face challenges they were not used to. They were willing to learn and were in good condition. She descended as smoothly as she ascended. The boys quickly understood that they needed to keep moving and be brave to do the tricks. If they hesitated, they could get hurt. Being confident was really important. The exercises needed some special obstacles. They focused on learning the moves suitable for those obstacles today. After working for 2 hours, they took a break. All three sat on the largest rock on the ridge and saw someone unexpected. Tracy McMahon. "I have something to tell you." He was walking down the hill and saw the group of 3 people. She didn't know him and was confused about why he was calling her name from behind the trees and bushes. He was really tall, around 6 feet, and had dark skin. Tracy noticed he was wearing a long coat that looked funny, like the ones in cowboy movies. What worried her the most was the sawed-off shotgun he held in his left hand. "Bradley. Greg. Follow the ridge and go back to the house quickly. Don't be concerned about me. He won't be able to catch me in the woods. I won't allow him to come near enough to use the shotgun. Please hurry. Follow my instructions." The boys ran down the ridge and jumped over obstacles. Meanwhile, Tracy went the other way. Her enemy tried to follow but struggled to keep up. She could see he was fit, but he didn't have the right abilities to beat her at what she was good at. She played with him for a while, making sure the boys had time to return home before heading to the cabin. The boys were wise to steer clear of any trouble when she went into the open space behind the buildings. She saw Tom chopping wood. He noticed her and gestured for her to come to the back of the cabin. He appeared calm, which was surprising given the circumstances. The boys warned him about the man with a shotgun. She searched for them but couldn't find them. Soon after, he emerged from the woods where Tracy had appeared. He was much taller than she had thought. He walked towards Tom as Tom kept splitting wood. "Where is she? The woman who just ran past here, where is she?" Tom gestured towards his ear to show the man that he couldn't hear well. The man approached while keeping the shotgun in his left hand. Tom paused his work and looked at him. "I'm sorry, what did you say?" The man repeated, "Where did the woman go who was running through here?" The large man was very sure of himself and didn't feel scared of Tom, even though Tom had an axe. He didn't move when Tom approached him. "You talking about that lady?" Tom pointed at Tracy with his left hand. He then quickly moved his right hand and the axe to knock the shotgun out of the intruder's grip. He didn't move his whole arm, only his wrist, as he leaned down to pick up his injured fingers. Suddenly, the back of the axe hit him hard in the face. At that moment, the sheriff arrived at the house. The boys rushed out to meet him while Tracy approached her hero. What he did was not very smart. Who would be brave enough to approach someone holding a shotgun while they only have an axe? Tom, Tracy, and the kids watched from the porch as the officials sorted things out. The ambulance was called for the large man. He had lost some teeth and broke his nose and hand. Despite his injuries, he managed to say he was just there to deliver legal documents to Tracy McMahon. He thought the shotgun would scare enough to finish the job. But it was empty. He went after Todd Warner and found Tracy by asking the neighbors. They sat quietly while the sheriff scolded Tom for being too rough. The sheriff didn't charge Tom because he had a shotgun. He had many accusations against the huge man. The paper meant for Tracy to receive had suddenly vanished, and soon after, everyone had left. Tom told the boys to prepare lunch. After that, he asked Tracy to explain what was happening. Tracy couldn't say no to him. The grilled cheese sandwiches were done right when she was finished. She told Tom most things, but didn't say she was very rich. Bradley and Greg went to the woods to practice after lunch. Tom went outside, and Tracy soon followed with coffee. I checked out your drawings this morning once you had gone. Things have changed a bit, maybe for the good, but remember, the publisher has the last say. Tracy stayed silent. She was happy that Tom liked the drawings. If you make 3 more, I can send them out in a package on Monday. What do you say? Just let me know what you need, and I'll get it for you by tomorrow evening. In the distance, you could hear Tom's sons shouting happily as they raced around the mountainside. Tracy hoped for good luck. They didn't have any broken bones today. In the afternoon, Tracy called Tanner to tell him about the morning chaos. Tanner wasn't available, but Sarah was curious to hear about it. Tracy noticed the housekeeper asking detailed questions, giving the impression she was very knowledgeable and skilled. Tracy couldn't shake the feeling that the housekeeper was more than meets the eye. When the boys got back, they informed their father that they would be spending the night at a friend's place. Bradley subtly winked at Tracy before they left. Tom left them and bought some shrimp on his way back. When he got home, he found the kitchen table covered in newspaper with lots of shrimp and shrimp shells on top. The next day, Bradley and Greg saw 2 half-full beer bottles next to some empty ones. It was clear that they didn't finish their special dinner the night before. Tom's sons quietly left the house and giggled on the porch before heading to the mountainside behind the cabin. Tracy woke up to loud whooping sounds coming from the ridge. The sun shone through the window and made her sparkle. She decided to take a fast shower before the kids returned. Tom was still in the same spot. His back muscles were strong, just like his arms and stomach. It's surprising how using an axe can build muscles like fancy ballet moves. Flex. Tracy found a waffle maker on a high shelf and cleaned it. She heated it up before Bradley and Greg came back from a quick workout. She thought being young with lots of energy was great. The table had syrup and juice with hot waffles arriving soon after. Tom looked clean and happy when he showed up after taking a shower. When he saw Tracy's small frown, he made some adjustments, but only a few. Not long after breakfast, Sarah Weiser arrived. Tracy's simple directions had guided her well. Tanner is currently in San Francisco, but will be back this afternoon. Can you and another person come over around 6 for a simple dinner? He's planning to bring back some fresh crabs from the wharf. Tracy, did you learn about the guy who was here yesterday? He talked a lot. Trimble hired him and 3 others. Good or bad news? Find out tonight. There was a $5,000 reward for delivering the papers to you. The person had a small issue because he was carrying a shotgun, which was against the law. How did you learn all of this, Tracy? I am not just Tanner's preferred guest at his home, but I also work as his lawyer. I showed my ID to the police and said I was there to help your guest. I didn't even know his name at first, but they let me in without asking any questions. I left after 10 minutes and they didn't know why I was there. You've been Tanner's lawyer for 20 years. I'll have some papers for you to sign tonight. You never told me what Tanner discovered in San Francisco. Tanner always thought you were smart. Tom and Tracy waved goodbye as Sarah went back to her car. Tracy? She didn't reply. Did you notice that as well? You're becoming clever since you started hanging out with me. Tom worked on the Jeep in the afternoon while Tracy focused on completing the remaining drawings. She was happy that he wasn't chopping wood. The boys were often away, so it was usually peaceful and calm. The main decision for the night was which pizza to order and which pay-per-view movie to watch. Tracy watched as the 2 teenagers argued about it before heading to Tanner's house. Tom packed the new book's manuscript and illustrations in an envelope. He was all set to send it out early the next day. He needed to find a way to thank his new assistant. At Uncle Tanner's party, the highlight was seeing Tom try to crack open the crabs. He paid attention to how everyone else was doing it and then joined in confidently. In the end, everything was fine, and she liked how he handled the new situation. Tracy told her uncle that she needed to tell Tom about what was going on. Tom listened to the boring conversation for a while, then left politely. He went outside and spent the rest of the night looking at the stars from the front porch. Sarah gave him a new cup of coffee and a nice smile. He struggled between understanding the legal language and the business jargon. Tracy had to endure all of it. Uncle Tanner had soon understood the situation. There were different ways to handle the situation, but Tracy quickly decided on one. With the company stock Tanner owned and Tracy's shares, Tanner could take full control of the company right away. Sarah had the right papers for the transfer, and Tracy signed them quickly. She still had her annuity and all the money she had saved up. Letting go of the stocks wouldn't impact her life, but could help the company. Tanner and Sarah planned to move to San Francisco for a while. Tracy wondered if she and Tom could stay at the lodge while they were away. Now, all she needed to do was to persuade Tom that moving there would be a good idea. Tom really liked the cabin, but it did bring back some painful memories for him. Perhaps the move would make things better. She knew Bradley and Greg would be thrilled. "Wake up, Tom!" He had dozed off in the uncomfortable chair. "Sorry, I think we're all set to leave now. Sorry if the evening was dull." Tracy and Tom said their farewells and headed back to the cabin. "Was everything okay?" "Mostly." "We have a small issue. I need your assistance. I may not know how to help, but I am here for you." Tanner and Sarah are moving back to San Francisco for a while. They are looking for someone to stay at the lodge while they are away. I said we could help them. Tom didn't reply right away. "I thought you were just here to fix your issue quickly." "So, are you going to stay here for a bit longer?" "I could use your help because I can't manage that large property alone. I think with your help and the boys' help, I can handle it. Are you ready for this?" The inside of the Jeep was dim, but she could still make out his smile in the passing car lights. Her excitement was unnecessary. She just needed to wait for Uncle Tanner to leave. Bradley and Greg were awake when they returned. They were looking forward to moving to the lodge, even though they had never seen it before. Tracy was happy about staying there, which was more important to her than getting a new house. Tom and Tracy left to go to the bedroom. Tracy looked back and saw the boys high-fiving each other. She was still hesitant about being intimate with them at home, but no longer felt the need to keep their relationship a secret. Tracy woke up early and prepared breakfast before the boys. They had many questions about the new house. Each of them would have their own room and fast internet. Tom came out as they were heading to school. Tom didn't acknowledge Bradley's wink and left the post office just before it opened. Tracy was surprised when the home phone started ringing. The phone didn't ring often at their house. "Hello, this is the Henderson residence. How can I help you?" It sounded silly, but she wasn't sure what else to say. But there was no reply from the other person on the line. She was about to end the call when a quiet voice answered. "This isn't Henderson. Who is this?" It was a truly bad situation. Why did she have to be the one calling? Tracy wondered why this person specifically had to contact her. Her thoughts were going a mile a minute trying to figure out the reason behind the call. There were only two options. Tracy either wanted money or she planned to return. Tracy didn't mind about the money, but she couldn't allow Anne to come back. Tracy knew she was the housekeeper. "Who are you?" Anne hesitated for a moment before replying, "I'm Mrs. Henderson, Tom's wife." Then she quickly added, "I apologize, please forgive me. I thought Mr. Henderson was not married anymore. I'm curious why he didn't tell me the truth. But maybe he didn't actually lie to you. A few years ago I sent him fake divorce papers from Nevada, but they weren't real. So we're actually still married. Why did you send him those fake papers? I didn't mean to do it like that. I made a mistake without realizing it. Does this mean the divorce isn't real? Why did you make that choice?" She took a moment before answering, finding it difficult to respond. "I'm sorry, but that's not something I can share. Can I talk to Tom instead?" However, Tom was not available at that moment. He's at the tax office a lot lately because he's behind on his taxes for 2 years. Tracy couldn't help but laugh quietly to herself. He hasn't paid property taxes for 3 years to the state and county. His credit cards are maxed out, and he still owes money to his publisher for an advance on a book he never completed. I think he might end up in jail for a while. Tom used to be reliable and steady, but things changed when you left him. He couldn't handle it, and now everything is a mess. Tracy was surprised by the question. The person on the other end didn't say anything. Tracy asked again if they were still there. They replied that they were. "What do you need?" "I have a little issue and was hoping to ask for money for a plane ticket to come back home." "Can you ask your boyfriend for help instead?" No one replied. "What does home mean to you?" After a brief silence, the person said they didn't want to keep talking. They mentioned calling back when Tom is around. The phone call came at a suspicious time, which made Tracy uneasy. She was waiting for Tom on the porch when he returned from town, and she mentioned the unexpected call to him. He stayed silent. Later, Tom phoned the phone company and stopped the landline service. He unplugged the phone and tossed it in the closet. He told her to keep quiet about the call to the kids before heading outside to chop wood. Darn it. She believed she was making progress, but one phone call messed everything up. Why did she have to call right now? She found the divorce papers in Tom's file cabinet in just 10 minutes. Even though she knew she shouldn't be looking through his private stuff, she knew they needed to deal with this issue instead of avoiding it. 10 minutes later, she rode the Sportster to see Sarah. Tom noticed but didn't stop her. She returned in less than an hour. Tracy paused on the porch and glanced at Tom before going inside the cabin. She was determined that the woman would not win him back no matter what. Tom stopped chopping wood when Tracy called him for lunch. The hot sandwich and cold beer helped him relax. They ate in silence, only speaking once the meal was finished. "I need a new story to draw. You mentioned having a few more. Could you prepare one for me to begin working on?" "I'll just quickly shower, then I'll get right on it. By the way, do we need firewood for the new place? The cabin has an oil furnace. We'll need some wood for the fireplace, but not for heating." Tom stopped for a moment, then finished his beer. "I plan to sell the wood at the back of my house because many people are interested in buying it. I am tired of splitting wood myself." Tracy quietly observed him heading to the shower. The phone call wasn't so bad, it seemed. 3 days later, everything was going smoothly. Tanner and Sarah traveled to San Francisco and stayed at Tracy's house while looking for their own place. Tom sold all the firewood he had, both split and unsplit. The person who bought the wood also helped move it to the lodge and even stacked it there. Tom decided to leave the furniture in the cabin because the lodge already had everything they needed. The boys changed schools quickly without any fuss. Tom had already rented the cabin for a whole year. Tom's publisher was very happy with the new book and the drawings Tracy had made. She couldn't finish the pictures for the new book because of the move. She told Tom she would complete them by the end of the week. Tom had already begun writing a new book. Things were going well. The crew planned a road trip for the following Saturday. They all went to the city by the bay because Tanner said it was safe to go back. The Sportster was put on the trailer for Tracy to give back to Tiny and settle things with him. Her 883 would be brought back on the trailer as well. Tracy said Bradley could drive the 7 back to the lodge, but she wanted to sit in the front seat. Greg felt a little upset about not being included, but Tracy assured him she would make it up to him later. Tom and his friends liked the condo. Tom realized Tracy was more interesting than he first thought. He was hesitant to ask because he was worried about the response. The trip wasn't just for fun. Tanner and Tracy discussed work. Sarah, Tom, and the boys went to Japantown for lunch. They enjoyed choosing sushi from the little boats that passed by the counter. Tom wasn't having as much fun because he knew it might be expensive, but then Sarah told him that Tanner would be paying, and he felt better. Uncle Tanner showed up at the boardroom and caused chaos. Darian was fired on the spot and had to leave the building with 2 security guards. Federal marshals were waiting for him when he arrived. Everyone in the group except Todd and Andrea had to clear out their desks by the end of the day. Andrea had a list of people for Tanner to interview on Monday. Tracy felt better when Tanner told her Andrea was not involved in the plan. Tanner also said to Tracy that he and Sarah weren't coming back to Rough and Ready, and that the lodge was hers now. Sarah gave Tracy a package before they left for the trip back to the foothills with the Henderson family at 3 o'clock. Tracy prayed quietly as Bradley drove the rocket-shaped car out. Tom quickly followed with the trailer. Their uncle was eager to leave and found it tough to wait any longer. Tracy found the situation funny and thought Bradley deserved a chance. She called Tom and asked him to join them at the pit. "Go ahead, Bradley, give it a shot. If you get a ticket, you have to pay the fine." The car silently drove off from the Jeep. While she usually wouldn't support this behavior, she was in a good mood that day. Tracy allowed Bradley to drive the RS-7 until they were around 10 miles away from Sacramento. When they reached the pit, he had calmed down. 20 minutes later, Tom and Greg came. Tom scowled at Tracy at first, but then smiled as they went in for dinner. The following 3 weeks felt like a dream. Tom was doing well with his new book, and Tracy was getting better at drawing the pictures. The boys' grades got better with Tracy's help, and Bradley started dating his first girlfriend. Tracy went to pre-corps often, sometimes alone and other times with Bradley and Greg. Tom stopped splitting wood when a woman arrived on a Tuesday morning. She said, "Hello, I'm not Henderson. I heard Tom lives here now. I checked the old place first." She was 5 feet 2 inches tall with dirty blonde shoulder-length hair. She needed help with grooming and makeup. "Tom is currently unavailable, Mrs. Henderson. Can I assist you with something?" "Oh, who are you? I'm the housekeeper. I think we've spoken before." Tracy didn't invite her inside. They waited on the porch for someone to speak. "Will he return soon?" "He's in Sacramento. I think he'll be back after 3. Are the boys here?" "No, they're at school. I will be back at 3:30. The quiet moments in our talk were frustrating. "Can you please explain why you came here?" "I only want to reunite with my family. I messed up and I want to fix things. I want to speak with Tom because we are still married. We are still a family. The boys still need their mom and Tom needs his wife. They needed a mom 2 years ago. Where were you? I made a mistake, as I said. I'm here to fix things. You can't fix anything if you keep lying. Who do you think you are to say I'm lying? You don't have the right." Tracy looked at her and told her to wait before going inside. In a little while, she came back with the envelope Sarah had passed her. "Let's give it another go, Mrs. Smith," she said. "Henderson, if you lie to me one more time, I will make you leave this place quickly. Stand quietly without saying a word. What happened to the boy you ran away with? Where is he now? Why aren't you with him?" She tried to compose herself before answering. "He moved to Thailand without me. I was left in Baltimore with no money or job, feeling lost and unsure of what to do next. You went back to the man you left and lied to him? I regret leaving him. He will surely forgive me." Tracy pulled out a report from the envelope. "The document is from the Washoe County Courthouse in Nevada. It says that your divorce from Tom Henderson is official. You are now legally separated from Tom Henderson. The marriage is ended. Do you get it?" Tracy asked, lowering her head. The woman remained silent, simply nodding in response. "You weren't truthful about working in Baltimore, were you?" Tracy questioned. The woman kept quiet, gazing at Tracy without uttering a word. Tracy examined the letter inside the envelope. It said she was arrested for soliciting. She was tempted to throw it back at him, but she couldn't do it. She could see that she was upset and might consider prostitution as a last option. "And how about the time you got arrested in Baltimore?" "Oh dear, who are you? How do you know all of this information?" "Tom doesn't know. The boys don't know either. In my opinion, they don't need to know." "What do you want? What should I do now? Why did you leave your 2 kids? It's already tough enough to go off with someone else, but how could you just leave those boys like that?" "Daniel was a nice guy who liked to help others. I first met him at an art shop in Yuba City. Since my friend Tom was always busy, I found it simple to sneak out and hang out with Daniel. He shared amazing stories about his travels. He led the kind of life I dreamt of. I lived in a small mountain shack with my husband, who was a bit of a loner, and our 2 young sons. Now that I think about it, I realize how fortunate I was. When Daniel moved to a new place, he wanted me to go with him, just the 2 of us. It was hard for me to decide because the boys were closer to Tom than they were to me. I decided to leave and stay with their dad. I lived with Daniel for 2 years until he was assigned to work in Thailand. The job was solo, but I could have gone with him. Our goodbye was a bit sad. He said he didn't want to bring a hamburger to a fancy steak dinner. I made a mistake. I'm aware of it. What do you think about the arrest? I had a job at Taco Bell in the day but couldn't afford my rent. So, I took on an extra job at night cleaning at a massage parlor. One night, the police came and raided the place. I worked as a cleaning lady but got wrongly accused of doing something bad with the other girls. That's when I reached out to you for help, and Tom doesn't want you to come back. Your sons feel the same. Trust me, you don't want to confront them. They're mature enough to understand what you've done and how it has hurt their father. They care about him and will support him regardless of your actions or words. I want to help Tom and the kids. Can you tell me what I can do to assist you? I'm willing to support you by giving you some money for a fresh start somewhere else. I won't tell Tom or the boys what happened. You can still send them cards for their birthdays and a gift at Christmas, but please don't come to visit. Why should I listen to you? Listen carefully. Your husband is angry with you for your actions and does not want to be around you. I told him about your call last time, and he got so angry that he tore the phone off the wall. Also, now that you're not around anymore, I've found someone else. If you try to come back, I'll make sure you regret it, so just take the money and leave. They both stood silently on the porch. She was shuffling her feet and staring at the ground. How much cash? I'll give you $10,000 and a ride to the bus station if you agree to stay away. You're so mean. Do you realize that? Yes, I do. I am mean. This is especially for women who don't put their family first and leave them for pleasure. Forget the fancy ride. Do you still want my money, or are you ready to face my anger? Tracy waited for Tom to come back home for 2 hours. When he finally arrived, she saw him driving a brand-new Subaru Outback. Tracy grabbed 2 cold beers as Tom parked the car in front of the lodge. She asked, "What kept you?" "They put on the incorrect hitch, so I had to wait for a replacement." Sitting on the porch rockers, they asked, "Do you like it?" The reply was, "Of course, what's not to like?" He opened his beer and grinned at the person who helped him. "Your wife visited today," he said. Tom took a big gulp of his drink before asking, "Is she thinking of coming back?" "I don't believe so," came the reply. "Did you help her out?" "I think so." "Where did you hide her body?" Tom chuckled. "Just outside," Tracy replied with a laugh. "Hey, Tom, did you check out the papers Sarah gave me?" He drank the beer and squeezed the can. Tracy believed him completely. She got up, taking the empty can from his hand. "We can have a quick shower before the boys return from school." "Are you ready?" Tom asked with a smile, holding her hand as they entered the lodge. Hey listeners, if you enjoyed watching this video and want to stay updated with our latest content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss out on what's coming next. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video with Queen Cheating Tales.